Hey, does everybody get those T-shirts that they're more on the plane, on the team, or where do we get something like
Yeah.
that?
No comment.
I feel out of the loop. I don't know what the T-shirt was.
You better check. Matt, is it going to be long-term for Elton, and how do you guys kind of put the pieces together there now with the guys you already have out?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Certainly, Elton's been a big part of this team, and he still is a big part of this team, but he just won't be out there with us. And it's just one of those deals that it's an unfortunate part of our game, and we've had a lot of guys, unfortunately, have to go through this year. And luckily we've got, Yash has been playing some good ball for us, and we got other guys as well, and eventually we'll get David back, I think, and we'll just handle it week to week.
The situation with David, do you know when he might come back? Is there a plan in place right now, or is it indefinite?
Yeah, there's certainly a plan, but not everything goes as planned all the time. So, yeah, he won't be out there this week. So we'll just see where he's at after the bye, and like I said, we're hopeful that he'll be able to come back this year at some point. It certainly isn't for a lack of work ethic on his part. It's not for a lack of toughness. It's just one of those things that you never quite know how everybody's going to respond to the recovery process, and I think that's just where we're at with him.
And any chance Aaron Jones practices or tries to go this week, or is it probably just too soon?
I think there's definitely a chance, but we'll see where he is when we start practicing on Wednesday.
Now, you always say, guys go when they're cleared, but when you do have the bye coming up finally after all this time, is that part of the discussion on deciding, do we take a little more conservative approach or not, or does that not look that way?
I don't know how to answer that. I think that there's some of that potentially could come into play, but if they are healthy and cleared to go, then certainly we're not going to hold them back.
How much changes with Yash in there? Can you just run your offense basically like you have been? Has he played at that level in those 3 games plus that he's gotten in there?
Yeah, well, I think every week you kind of look at your opponent and who they have going, what you're going against, not only schematically, but from a personnel perspective as well. And anytime you're playing a team like the LA Rams that has multiple dynamic pieces on their defensive line, it presents some challenges that, and it definitely influences how you game plan and the things that you're going to ask your players to do.
Aaron mentioned he got stepped on in the first half of that game. I know he is looking forward to resting that toe on the bye week. Is there any worries of maybe another setback with the toe playing this Sunday, or is it just one of those things where you kind of wait and hope?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I think he is as tough as they come, and I think he will fight through this thing.
And you guys have been so great about penalties all season long. Obviously, yesterday was different. What did you look at anything? Is there anything in common with that, or was it just a game where the crew was maybe a little more on you? I don't know.
It was just one of those things that happened. Unfortunately, we pride ourselves on being disciplined. Certainly, there's a couple that you got to make sure that you avoid. I think some of them are just kind of, it happens in the heat of the battle. The penalty I'm talking about is we can't have 12 men on the field. That is, like I said yesterday, that's inexcusable. Certainly, when you're rushing the quarterback, you got to do your best to lower your strike zone. And the other ones were called, and that's just the way it was. So.
Do you understand why the call was made on Patrick Lucas, or did that not make sense to you?
Working through that right now. So, we've been doing this, we haven't changed our snap count since I've been here. And Aaron's been operating with, I know there's been other centers in there, but we've been operating that way for a really long time. And it was kind of news to me that was illegal. So I need to get clarification on what we're doing wrong. And if we are doing something wrong, then we have to coach it differently and we have to get it corrected.
Matt,
Was there any difference in Kevin King's interception last week and Darnell's almost interception this week from when you look at either of those plays?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of similarities there. So, again, it's just something that we have to get clarification on in terms of, does it matter the area of the field? Are you in the end zone? Does it count? If you're in the field of play, does it not count? It's just one of those that I don't particularly understand.
What did you think of the way EQ stepped up yesterday and just how we kind of embraced the opportunity with some big plays?
Yeah, EQ did a heck of a job, not only on offense, I think that was pretty obvious, but on special teams as well. Yeah, I was really proud of his effort, just the toughness he showed. He was playing fast, he was playing physical, fighting through things. He showed probably as much emotion as I've ever seen him on the field. So that was definitely encouraging, especially with having Allen out of the lineup. A couple of those plays were some big-time plays that he made. Yeah, he had the around on the keeper. We call it a down flat, where it wasn't the best look to run a keeper into, but he made a heck of a play on that. And there were a couple others, a slant, just fighting through, creating an explosive there. So I was really happy with his effort.
Matt, you guys have done such a good job with receiver combinations over the last couple of weeks. Was there anything about what the Vikings were doing that created some problems, confusion, or mishaps in coverage?
Yeah, there was certainly, when you have two premier receivers, that presents its own set of problems. And then you combine that with the fact that you've got one of the premier running backs in the National Football League, and sometimes when you try to take away the run, it opens up the pass and vice versa. So I think just with the way they're playing, you got to kind of pick your poison. Now, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of things that were a little self-inflicted on our part in terms of just the communication and execution of how we were going to play some of the concepts and or coverages that we have got to get fixed, that we haven't been making up to this point, especially the last few weeks. So we're definitely going to be very critical of ourselves and making sure that we also put our players in the best position to go out there and execute at a high level. And I think it was a combination of many things that led to the explosive plays that they were able to produce. I think they had 10 explosives for like 250 yards or whatever it was.
Matt, is there any plan at all right now to thinking about changing kickers?
No, I would say absolutely not.
Is there, given that it's been a weekly issue at this point, what would need to happen to revisit that or to have competition there? You say there's competition everywhere.
Yeah, I just, that's just, we're still working through that whole process of, that never falls squarely on one individual. Our operation has got to improve, and that's from the snap to the hold to the kick. So we'll continue to work on that, and then, but certainly have a lot of confidence in Mason. Never would have sent him out there if we didn't on a 54-yarder, and he came through. So I just think that shows the level of confidence that we have not only in him, but that entire group to go out there and execute, and they did a great job on that one. And then certainly you got to make the chip shots. We can't do that on a 31-yard attempt.
On the first offensive drive of the second half, it felt like you guys really started to stack plays. Is that the most in sync you thought the offense has been since Arizona?
Yeah, I would say so, absolutely. I felt like actually it was probably the most we've been maybe this season. Just probably from me being very decisive with the call and getting great information from our assistant coaches. They're always a big part of that process. And then just, relaying that to Aaron and Aaron to the other 10 guys in the huddle, and just the belief that they had in the plays. And then I think that was pretty reflective in the execution.
On the inside handoff to Randall and then the toss to AJ, how long have you had that one in the back pocket, and where'd that one originate?
Well, we study a lot of tape, and I would be lying to you if there weren't other teams that have ran that play. That's just kind of the way this league works quite a bit. So, but Justin Outen did a great job of finding that one, and I know Cleveland ran it earlier this year, and so did the Niners a year ago. I'm sure there's other teams that probably ran similar plays to that, but it was just one of those situations that we had in for a short yardage situation, and certainly have a lot of trust in Randall to be able to go out there and execute it, and as well as the other 10 guys. But certainly he gets the bulk of the responsibility for the ball handling in that situation, not only making a great decision, but executing the pitch. So, but no, you got to give J.O. a lot of credit for finding that play.
Yeah, what did you see from DeGuara yesterday, and how important do you think that play can be for him, on the scramble drill, being able to finish that the way he did?
Yeah, I thought Josiah played an excellent game, and I loved the physicality he played with, the effort. He was relentless, and you talk about playing to the echo of the whistle. That's what you saw, and you saw a toughness. Certainly that off-schedule scramble play was a big play. It was third down. And it was a unbelievable play by Aaron. Great job, escaping the pocket to his left and throwing an absolute dime to Josiah. And Josiah, for his ability to finish that catch, was big time.
Aaron's improvement as the game went on, how much do you think that's just a matter of getting back into a rhythm and getting snaps given the long layoff that he's had?
Oh, I'm sure that definitely had some effect on it, absolutely. And I think just reflecting on what we were asking him to do early may have it's so easy to want to put a lot on him because he's so damn good, and he always goes out there and plays at such a high level. So, but I do think we got to be mindful of just trying to let him get in that groove, because once he gets there, man, it's tough to stop. And I think that's what you saw, basically from the back half of that first half throughout the rest of the game.
Is there anything unique to going up against a colleague from the quote-unquote same coaching tree, planning for a guy you worked with?
No, I wouldn't say so. I just think there's times where you can probably overanalyze, but I would say that, Joe obviously is worked with Sean for a long time in LA, and me coming from a similar background and working with Sean, but I think that sometimes gets overblown, and sometimes you outthink yourself and or outsmart yourself, and you gotta trust what you see on tape. You gotta trust what you know about your team, and try to put the guys in the best position as possible and go out there and execute.
From your perspective, as someone who's familiar with both, how much is this Rams offense a balance of McVay versus Stafford?
Well, I'd be lying to you if I've studied a lot of LA Rams offense this year. It's kind of hard to do that during the season. Now we'll get into it this week, but I think there is a good balance. Certainly, I buzz their tape. Especially some of the big plays that they're able to present on a weekly basis. But to sit there and really dissect it, that doesn't really happen much during the season until you get into the actual game planning process, which is what we're about to do right now.
You guys have been waiting for this bye week for so long, and obviously the team is banged up and tired and everything. From a coaching perspective, is there anything easier or harder about getting the most out of your guys in a week like this with what's ahead?
No, I think everybody's well aware of where we're at, how important each game is. We're almost into December now. We're going against one of the premier teams in the National Football League, a team that we know that, they're most likely going to be right there at the end of it. And so we need to play our best ball. So I think it's pretty easy to get up for a game like this in terms of just we need everybody's best in order to go out and beat this football team.
Yesterday, Rob asked Aaron kind of a state of the team question at the end of it, and he mentioned the first thing that Aaron mentioned was the slow starts and needing to get going sooner. Obviously, if you knew how to do it, you'd get it done, but what's the kind of the key to getting going a little earlier?
Yeah, I thought yesterday started out that first play. We were pretty excited about that. And anytime you get a 40-yard completion or whatever it was to Devontae, and then for it to stall out like that was a little disappointing. But Mason came through, made a big kick, and then we got to get stops, and our defense has done a great job of that all year long. And unfortunately, we got behind too much yesterday. It's never when you're playing in somebody else's home and against a really good football team, in my opinion, one of the more talented teams in this league. You got to make sure that you don't get behind like that. I mean, it's tough to rebound from a two-score game, and for our guys to kind of rally and show that resiliency and battle and be able to take the lead was encouraging. But we got to finish. But I think, to your point, definitely have to do a better job of getting going earlier in the game so we don't put ourselves in that position.
Let's go to Zoom. Sarah, go ahead.
Yep, we have four. We'll start with Steve McGarvey.
Just to clarify, he's definitely done for the season.
Yeah, he'll be done.
And with Josh, what was the biggest growth you saw in him in the 3 starts he made earlier in the season when nothing was out earlier?
I think every time that a guy goes out there and is able to perform at a high level, and you just see their confidence build, and I think that is so important in this game. I think in life, but especially in the game of football, when you see guys that are confident out there, that they're able to execute at a higher level. And I think Josh has all the traits you look for in an offensive lineman. I mean, he's big, he's athletic, he can bend, he's strong, powerful, everything. It's just about putting it all together on a consistent basis.
Aaron Nagler.
Coach, going back to the option Randall to Dillon, you mentioned J.O. finding that one. Aaron mentioned yesterday the end around the EQ was borrowed from an offense very similar to yours, quarterback by Matthew Stafford. I don't think it takes Inspector Clouseau to figure out which one that is. How many plays on your play sheet per game, percentage-wise, would you say, are taken directly from other teams?
That's a great question, Aaron. I think that there's so much in the league, especially the teams that you really respect, and that you kind of buzz their tape real quick and see if you can come up with something off of maybe something that they did, or that fits within your scheme. But I think that goes around everywhere. It's very few of us are that creative enough to come up with it on our own, but every now and again we do. And so, but there's a lot of ball out there, and that's something we'll always continue to do, is try to study and make sure we come up with the best schemes for our guys to go out there and try to put up a lot of points.
Stephanie Sutton.
Coach, it's a sad day here in Wisconsin. I'm down here in Milwaukee. I want to know when you first learned about the tragic events in Waukesha on Sunday, and what is your reaction to the horrific events?
Yeah, Stephanie, that's, man, it sure does put life in perspective. I saw the video last night, and it's absolutely horrifying, chilling. My heart goes out to everybody down there, and certainly it makes you sad that stuff continues to happen in our world.
And last one, Scott Brodsky.
Coach, is that something that you expect to talk to the team about? That you just leave alone? I could approach in the locker room.
Yeah, I think every time, there's traumatic events, especially when it's, close to home, you might mention it and just make people aware of the situation. And certainly I think it does always gives you a pretty good perspective, especially after, you suffer a loss. What what really matters in the world is just, you know, being a great person and doing right by others. And but certainly it's very, very sad that, like I said earlier, that these things happen.